Hello and welcome back, or welcome to Wake Up with Dr. Cheryl. We have a live show tonight, this afternoon, and we have a very honored and internationally known guest, John Gray. And this is very exciting because we're going to talk about, the theme that I talk about is healing the relationship with money. And I've been focusing recently on the relationship with men and women and how they deal with money. So this is perfect because John has a wonderful new book out and we can talk about this very openly. And we have a live audience. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. And thank you to all the staff. Anyway, John, tell us about your new book.
Well, people know me as the author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and I've been teaching that for now 30 years. But the new book is, I've written this with a woman, Barbara Annis. First time I've done a collaborative book. And it's about men and women's challenges in the workplace. And it's fun to be talking about this on your show, which is Wake Up, because that's really what needs to happen in the workplace. It's kind of a wake up. I talk about 8 blind spots in the workplace, and the same blind spots exist between men and women at home as well. So we'll get into that, and particularly when we're trying to make decisions, one of the topics you've been talking about, making decisions around finances, there's a lot of blind spots there. So, one of the questions we talked about before was husband and wife trying to make a decision about, okay, are we going to save money? Are we going to spend money? Are we going to invest it here? Are we going to take money out here? What are we going to do about this? A woman has a value system which tends to be 80 to 90% of the time a greater emphasis on security, not taking risks. 80 to 90% of the time a man kind of goes, well, let's go for bigger is better, and so what if we take a little risk? And so when he's like making a decision, we ought to do this, and she's wanting to make, is this really safe? She'll ask a lot of questions. Often men misinterpret this to mean that she doesn't trust his ability to solve the problem. And so he gets all defensive about it. Now this isn't just at home, but this is like one of the blind spots in the workplace. We asked over 100,000 men and women at 60 Fortune 500 companies where we did our courses and we did a survey. And one of the blind spots we would label as, do women ask too many questions? And women would say no, and almost all of the men said yes. Men particularly don't like women asking so many questions, and women don't understand, what is this big deal? And women, on their other hand, one of the blind spots is they often feel excluded, and men go, why is she feeling excluded? Well, one of the reasons women feel excluded is because men don't ask enough questions,
I find it interesting that you have written a book with a woman. So tell us about that.
Well, it's really been an amazing experience. I think all my books are wonderful, but I think this is my best book, most challenging book, because I have a woman co-author. So every idea I have, she actually had a completely different point of view. We'd have to have a big discussion about every idea. I've never took so long to write a book. At 3 years to write this book.
3 years.
But I think it's the best book ever.
It took that long to get through the solutions, the solutions?
Well, it was like she spent 20 years talking about gender differences in the workplace, and I spent 30 years talking about gender differences primarily in our romantic relationships, parenting, dating, and all of that.
Oh, that's a big shift.
So we've been answering the same kind of questions, but from a different perspective. And I really like her perspective because every time she would point out to me, sometimes she'd say, well, John, you can't say that. And I said, why can't I say that? I said, because that upsets some women. And I said, why? That's ridiculous. And she'd explain it to me. She increased my, what we call gender intelligence, an awareness of how we're different, but in a positive way. So, I don't feel like I was restrained by political correctness. Okay, that's a little too extreme. But there's certain ways that men phrase things that really are quite often taken the wrong way by women. And men can make small adjustments. Here's one example, and I learned this with my wife, Bonnie. I mean, it made a huge difference in our marriage, which is one of our first arguments is I was saying something, and she got really upset about it. And I said, I was just kidding. And she says, well, anytime you follow a statement with just kidding, I hate that statement. And many women feel that way, which is that men will just, oh, just kidding. And if somebody gets their feelings hurt, oh, I didn't really mean it. Well, women don't let it go that quickly. And what we see now is stress tests show that when you say something that causes stress in a woman, the stress doesn't just go away if you say just kidding. See, to a guy, just kidding, no big deal. Okay, all right, I'll let it go. But for a woman, you say, just kidding, her brain is still going on it. Why would he say that? What does that mean? What kind of person is he? What does he think about me? Literally, what we see is that they can measure this. The neuroscientists have proven that men have an off switch in their brain, and women don't.
Yes, women's brains are always going.
That's right, they don't turn off.
And they're always processing the emotion part of it too.
Emotion, relational, past, present, future. They're going all over the place. Man's doing one thing at a time. You know, it's like, let's focus on this. She's all over the place. They did one study where they studied men and women when they come home from work. And they measured blood flow to the brain. And what they found is a woman sitting on a couch measuring blood flow increases. Her brain becomes busier. And you ask her, so what are you thinking? She says, I'm thinking about all the things I should be doing while I'm sitting here doing nothing. Then they do the same test on men.
Yes.
And there's no blood flow to his brain as soon as he sits down.
It's the nothing box.
It's the nothing box, exactly. And you say, what are you thinking? Nothing. And now you have the physiological proof. Nothing, you know?
Yes. And we need to embrace that to have a healthy relationship with men, because and men need to understand that women are always going. They're always thinking.
It's understanding both sides of things and having a respectful appreciation for those differences, not always liking them, but not always liking them, but accepting them and moving towards embracing them. And part of it is recognizing there is a value to it. That's the key to it. That's what I feel gender intelligence really is. It's a step up from men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Most of my message there was about understanding the differences between men and women in a positive way. But we really want to step it up, particularly for the workplace, but also at home, to recognize the strengths of men and women in a positive way. Because often what women bring to the workplace is not seen as a strength. It's often seen as a deterrent. It's like slowing us down, not letting us get everything's done.
Don't you think that also has to do with the way we communicate with one another?
Yes, but how we communicate first comes from what we value. There's like a great commercial right now for a telephone company. And it says to kindergarten kids, what's better? Faster or slower? And of course, what do they say? Faster, faster. Well, and certainly with a phone, you want faster downloads, you want better reception and so forth. But in life, sometimes faster is better, and sometimes let's slow it down, let's discuss, let's do a survey here, let's ask some people, and then make a decision. And men, if you look at our brains, another thing that Science Digest proves, and the research there, is that when you have a stress response, cortisol, as soon as you have the amygdala, which makes cortisol or stimulates cortisol to be produced, blood flows in a man's brain, bypasses the emotions, and goes straight to action. And men have 30 times more testosterone in their bodies in order to support that action, because testosterone gives you faster reaction time. So men are like sitting around waiting. Even when it looks like a guy's doing nothing, he's doing something. He's waiting for the emergency.
Yes.
See, it's like when it's there, you'll see them just jump to life. And it goes straight to action, whereas for a woman under moderate stress, blood flow doesn't go to action. It goes right, it fills the emotional part of the brain 8 times more than a man. The emotions go up, and suddenly she says, now we need to ask questions, and let's talk about it. And men often, if they don't value that difference, if they don't understand that difference, we feel like women are holding us back, or we misinterpret women and say insulting things, like, why are you making a big deal out of this? And she said, I'm not making a big deal. I just want to talk about it. And he's saying, well, why do you have to talk about it if it's not a big deal? It may bring up something. But men misinterpret, because only time a man experiences strong emotions, we have emotions too, of course, but usually for a man, emotions rise when there's a problem and you don't know what to do to solve it. If something's holding us back from solving a problem, we feel like we can't solve it, then fear comes up, anger could come up. So for a man, negative emotions means inability to solve problem. For a woman, negative emotion means just stress, change. That's how women cope with change, is by having an emotional reaction. Men cope with change by pushing away from the emotions and taking action. So both things are complementary, and if we have a positive way of dealing with it, knowing how to deal with it.
And it's understanding the differences.
It's understanding them, making sense of them.
Yes.
And you know what's fun for me, after 32 years of teaching Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, in the last 12 years, a huge amount of brain research, which really helps us to understand these differences, because you can look at the way women's brains and men's brains, and neuroscientists will say, we were astounded, wowed by the differences that we would see. And then you bring it down to the hormonal level. On a hormonal level, you can see such clear differences. You know, in terms of every month, a woman is preparing to make a baby. Her body's designed to make a baby. Her hormones have to fluctuate every time. There's a fluctuation of hormones, of estrogen and progesterone. Men don't have that fluctuation. Men have a fluctuation of one hormone. Testosterone goes up, testosterone goes down.
Of course, there is philosophy that says that men do have their monthly time.
Well, men have a time every 7 days, is what we have to understand. And this is proven biologically, is that first of all, to understand, when testosterone levels go low in a man, often people think, oh, testosterone makes men negative. Actually, it's testosterone going low that makes men grumpy, irritable. And if testosterone goes low and estrogen, the female hormone, goes high, that's when men get aggressive. Aggressive behavior in males, we have San Quentin right over the bay. You look at all those guys, you look at those big muscles, or a lot of them, I don't want to stereotype, but a lot of them have these big muscles. They're out working in the yard. I taught in San Quentin. You would think that their testosterone levels are super high. But if you measure their testosterone levels in the morning, they're almost zero. It's because they have a body mass that has to support high testosterone levels. They use up their testosterone in order to make those muscles. So often you'll see for muscle men, they're always looking for libido products. Guys like me, I never run out of testosterone. I got plenty. So I don't need a libido product, clearly. But when guys have a lot of muscle, they use up their testosterone to make their muscles. And the symptom is not just low libido of low testosterone. Anytime a man is grumpy, irritable, inflexible, pouting, he always has low testosterone in those moments. When a man is most positive, flexible, charming, delightful, helpful, wanting to solve the problem, courageous, his testosterone levels are normal. If he's under great danger and he doesn't know what to do, so he doesn't have confidence, then his testosterone levels will spike 3 or 4 times. And if they go too high, they convert into estrogen. There's an immediate conversion into estrogen that floods his brain with emotions, and that's what makes men vindictive, aggressive, negative, and commit crimes. It's all about men becoming too feminized that actually causes men to misbehave. The more we can help men be men, men behave much better. Same thing with women.
Are you saying that's like a forced behavior then, when men become more feminized?
Well, what I'm saying is, if you look at almost every male in San Quentin, and almost a high percent of children with learning difficulties, boys with learning difficulties, ADD, ADHD, the category where there's the highest risk of all of these impairments of brain function and behavior function, you'll see that high percent, extremely high percent, did not have fathers present when they were growing up. Yeah. You have to realize that 52% of children today do not have fathers present. This is a disaster. For males, it's a disaster. And for females, it's a disaster, not so much in their academic scores, but in their body image, their sense of a woman, feeling worthy, feeling like I can depend on someone. All those social skills they haven't learned because they had a single mother who couldn't have a positive relationship with a male. But a boy who doesn't have a positive role model of a male, he never develops the masculine energy. He doesn't feel confident. You see, I feel confident what I do, so I'm able to maintain almost a Zen-like experience of nothing ever bothers me because I know, and if something does bother me, then I know how to deal with that. Men today are not even taught how to deal with stress. They're often encouraged, and this is what you're kind of getting at. Are we feminizing men? Well, if every time a man's upset, we ask him, what are you feeling? We're feminizing men. Yeah. That's the way women cope with stress. What a man needs to do is cool off, quiet the mind, which often many cultures have taught men meditation, go into cave, and then analyze the problem. Here's the difference. You know, today we have therapy to help people. 90% of the people who go to therapists are women because it's person-centered. It's eye contact, it's empathy, it's asking lots of questions, it's sharing feelings. A very good thing to help women cope with stress. And it's also a very good thing to help men who have big tragic stresses like loss in the family or some big problem. Then they'll have those strong emotions. Then they need that kind of support. But for most challenges men have, Freud developed the whole system of psychology. Started with Freud. It was mostly male clients. If you go into a Freudian analysis, go with Freud, you go into a room that was dark. Second, there'd be a couch, a cave. It was a cave. You'd go into a room, you lie down on a couch, you'd face the opposite direction of your therapist, no eye contact. The therapist is taking notes off to the side, and the therapist never answers any of your questions. He just asks you a question like, why would that happen? And you say to your therapist, well, what do you think about that? He'll say, what do you think I think about that? But it's always about analyzing a problem. What he did is had people analyzing how things in the present relate to things in the past. He could have gotten the same results by simply having men analyze math problems. One of my brothers, who was all stressed out the way he dealt with his stress, because he was a math major, he would just do math problems and fall asleep. It's literally, if a man uses the left brain solving problems with confidence, his testosterone levels come back to normal again. So if my wife makes me grumpy, let's say some interaction, I get grumpy, I call a timeout. I said, let's not talk about this more. I need to think about this for a while. And before I can think about it in a positive way, I go out and do something that makes me feel good. I might go for a drive. I might go watch an action movie, something that I enjoy doing that sort of pumps up testosterone. Then I have a good mood. Then I go back and I think about our conversation. And what I made a big problem suddenly becomes a little problem. The same thing happens for women if they're upset about something. If you can ask questions without interrupting with solutions, and she gets a chance to talk, and then you say, and tell me more, what else do you feel? She will go to deeper levels of feeling, and if she can reveal more of what she's feeling inside, her stress levels go down, and problems that seem big suddenly shrink, and become smaller. But it's almost like opposite. So we don't understand each other.
That's the wisdom
yeah.
that comes with the education.
Right, and that's growing gender intelligence.
Yes.
And in the workplace or at home, the idea here is not to sort of fix each other, like men need to be fixed or women need to be fixed. It's really changing our culture. Think about fish in a fish tank. If you have a sick fish in a fish tank, or if they're all getting sick, you don't go and analyze them. You simply just change the water. And that's what we have to do, is change our culture that recognizes and values what women bring to the table, what men bring to the table, how we can communicate in a way to learn and discover and experience that different value.
One thing that I have been researching is when a couple equally makes the same amount of money, or the man makes more, and I'm asking you this with your research, is do you think that it affects the romantic relationship in more of an adverse way when the man has more power? I was been doing some study with Psychology Today, and they are saying that it does impact the romance in a relationship. Whereas if you have a woman that makes more or the same, the general consensus is that the romantic relationship is better. What's your opinion?
Well, it's certainly not my experience, okay?
Oh, okay.
As a marriage counselor, I don't know what those statistics are. I wouldn't be heavily against that. It's just, my experience. I continue after 30 years to have a daily practice. I travel around the world teaching seminars, writing books, but I stay in the game here. The relationships have changed a lot. And what I find that interferes with romance is lack of awareness, either on the man's part or the woman's part, of attending to keeping the romance alive. And feeling as though a woman is feeling heard and she's not being, same blind spots here. Women's complaints that kill romance are he doesn't listen, I feel taken for granted, he walks on eggshells around me, he doesn't say things because it's going to upset me, and whatever it be, the same challenges, they just show up differently in a personal relationship. And the truth is, we haven't been taught how to have successful romantic relationships. It's not something that existed in our history. This is a myth that people used to be romantic. People were sexual, but they weren't romantic. Romances, and why romance has suddenly become so important, and of course for women. Men don't, there's not big articles written, men are complaining, not enough romance, not enough romance, not enough men. It's like Valentine's Day is a woman's holiday.
That converts to the sexuality.
So here you have, romance is something that women are experiencing. When they see an article or a movie which is romantic, women go, wow, this turns me on. It stimulates a hormone called oxytocin. Oxytocin is the hormone that gives rise to climax, but it also gives rise to lowering stress in women. So women's stress levels are much higher today than men's. Now this has been measured. When women are in the workplace stimulates testosterone. Testosterone is associated in the male body with lowering stress. Testosterone is associated in the female body of interfering with the production of oxytocin, and oxytocin will lower a woman's stress. So without getting technical, here's an example from a Harvard study. If you put men and women in a cooperative, nurturing activity, women's stress levels go down, men's stress levels go up. If you put men and women in a competitive activity, women's stress levels go up, men's stress levels go down. So now you take women and you put them in a competitive environment of the workplace, you would guess their stress levels go up. And research shows that the average woman, not every woman, but the average woman in statistics has twice the stress level in the workplace than a man does. Now that woman comes home with twice the stress level, then they find that it doubles again, and it's 4 times as high because she's been spending all day doing testosterone activities. She hasn't been building up her oxytocin so that she's able to continue with responsibilities at home and not feel stressed out.
So she needs to get the massage and go shopping and take the nice jacuzzi bath to relax. I mean, it's
those things, for those people that don't know, you know, but all those behaviors you just described and more are oxytocin stimulators.
Yes.
So when women understand this, then it gives them permission to say, well, if I'm going to be working, then I need to pamper myself. Yes. And it makes men go, yes, go pamper yourself, you know, let them do the foreplay. Because if she has high oxytocin, she will be more responsive to his sexual interest, and she will also keep his sexual interest alive. Because quite often the complaint I hear from women over 40, whether they're making money or the primary money winner or not, is over 40 and then in the 50s, women are complaining that my husband's not that interested in sex. And of course, she also is interested in romance. Why? Because romance is a big oxytocin producer. Her body just tells her.
Well, it's the foreplay.
That's what foreplay is about, but foreplay won't even work if you don't have the romance. She needs the oxytocin in her body. So when we think that, gee, what happened to all the romantic men? They never existed. You know, Romeo and Juliet are like the ultimate romantic couple because they died before they got married. You know, they would have been cheating on each other like everybody else, you know, because... So the idea is we have to learn how to keep the romance alive, and it takes skills. Now, there's a lot of skills I teach on this, but one simple one is like a weekly date. Often couples, guys will wait to the last minute and say, honey, what do you want to do tonight? As if he's being so romantic because he's doing whatever you want to do, I'll do. Because to a man, if you said, I'll do whatever you want, he goes, great, let's just sit and watch TV and then have sex. Okay, so he's happy with that. So he thinks he's doing this great gift to you by waiting to the last minute without any thought, you know, hey, he's casual. That doesn't create romantic hormones in a woman. And often it's like too sudden. She needs time to think about what she would like. So a week in advance, what you do to create romance, it's a partnership. It's not men doing it all. It's not women doing it all. Absolutely. But it's a conversation where he asks her, what would you like? What else would you like? Let's look at some things you'd like. Then he picks from those things something that he would like that she likes. And even if nothing he likes, he still picks from that. Because for him, really, it's only 2 hours a week. He's going to do whatever it takes to make her happy. Because here's the unique thing about men. If she's happy, he's happy. Yes, and he also knows he's going to get laid. So there's a big win for him, you know. It's like, so you've got that relationship. And then there's even more to it. Once you plan this date, it's a week in advance. All week, she can be in this testosterone world, but she's thinking, yeah, but Saturday night, you know, I'm going to wear this dress, I'm going to put this on, I'm going to look this way, I'm going to get my hair done, I'm telling my friends about it. All those activities, all that thought process is saying, I have a personal life where I'm going to be the center of attention. I don't make any decisions. Things are going to be done for me. And just knowing that's there, her oxytocin levels will continue to rise throughout the week. A simple thing that makes a huge difference. And men are missing out on this. They don't have a clue. They don't even know why is she not happy? And that's one of our blind spots is why don't women feel happy? I'm doing this and this and this. Because we're focusing on certain things that we think would make her happy, when really it's a lot of little things that we're overlooking that could make women happy.
And you know, really it comes down to making ourselves happy.
Ultimately.
You know, I mean, that's the bottom line as far as I'm concerned, that I have learned through my relationships and my life is if you're not happy within yourself and keeping that oxytocin going, and like I need to have my alone time. I need to regenerate. That's what I do.
Excellent. Now, what we've talked about is the foundation of a successful partnership. It's not a successful partnership. It's the foundation. Right. Is that you have to be able to make yourself happy so that your partner in your relationship can make you happier.
Yes.
And this is one of the biggest messages I give to men, because often men, they can make she's happy to see him, she does these things, she's happy, So he starts to believe, I have the power to make her happy. I can make her happy. And you feel good about that. Then when she's not happy, you feel beaten up. But if you realize you can never make a woman happy, just get that. You cannot make a woman happy, but you can make her happier. And that's the secret. If you just get, when my wife's not happy, I don't feel beaten up at all. I don't get defensive about it. I go, okay, I know what to do to gradually help her as she's going through her process of becoming happier. The main thing I do is don't make it worse for her. Because that's what most guys do. When a woman's not happy, we make it worse.
Well, isn't it because you want to fix?
Yeah, that makes it worse. We want to say, why are you
it.
unhappy? You got this, think about this.
Yeah.
Hey, practice some of your gratitude affirmations, honey. You know, relax. You know, you're the one who's thinking positive all the time. Now you're so negative. Just get back to your positive thinking. He's saying that stuff. It's going to make it worse. Instead of like, yeah, that must be hard. That's difficult. 3 magic words for men to know when your wife is talking. Don't fix it, and occasionally say this word. That must be so frustrating. And she'll go, yes, it is.
Just
and then she'll talk more. And
Yeah.
then occasionally, you don't use that word too much, then she'll, that's so disappointing. It was disappointing. And then she'll talk more about that. And then you go into occasion and go, gosh, that is so hard. It is hard. And then you go into another magic word is, tell me what else, tell me more of your concerns. Concern is a magic word. Women have a million concerns that they feel like there's no permission to express. I mean, women can go, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, this can happen. And a man thinks, in a sense, encouraging that is going to make it worse. It's going to make her more upset. No, encouraging that makes her feel safe to be an emotional being to whatever extent she's feeling emotional at that time. And then she relaxes. And why does she relax? Because the safety to be herself says she's not alone. That she can be herself. And when you feel you're not alone, that you're seen and heard, then help is always available. And when you have that feeling, oxytocin levels shoot up, the stress hormone cortisol goes down. And this is where women, that's why they want a man in their life. And this is what I tell women. You know, we're talking about the work world. What do you need a man for? If you can make money, if you can make more money than a guy even, so why do you need a man? The reason you need a man, you have to feel it inside. The reason you need a man is so you don't have to do it all.